Bhakti Swami Nitnamne. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarane. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, text 25. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Deho Savo Ksha Manavo Bhuta Matram.
Deho
Savo Kasa Manavo Bhutatma.
Atmanam Anyam Cha Viduh Param Yat.
Atmanam Anyam Cha Viduh Paramam Yat.
Sarvam Puman Ved Gunamscha Tajagyo.
Sarvam Puman Veda Gunamscha Tajagyo.
Naved Sarvagyam Anantam Ide.
Naveda Sarvagyam Anantam.
May I read?
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Dhanva Pranam. Translation purport by Sri Prabhupada. Translation. Because they are only matter, the body, the life, air, the external and the internal senses, the five gross elements and suitable senses, objects from taste, smell, sound, and touch, cannot know their own nature. The nature of the other senses or the nature of their controllers. But the living being, because of his spiritual nature, can know his body, the life air, the senses, elements, and the sense objects. And he can also know the three qualities that form their roots. Nevertheless, although the living being is completely aware of them, he is unable to see the Supreme Being, who is omniscient and unlimited. I therefore offer my respectful obeisance to him. Purport by Sri Prabhupada. Material scientists can make an analytic study of the physical elements, the body, the senses, the sense objects, and even the air and controller of vital forces. But still, they cannot understand the above all. This is the real spirit soul. In other words, the living entity, because of his being a spirit soul, can understand all the material objects. Or when self-realized, he can understand the Paramatma upon whom yogas meditate. Nevertheless, the living being, even of advance, if advanced, cannot understand the Supreme Being, the personality of God, for he is Ananta, unlimited, in all six operations. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Okay, material scientists can make an analytical study of the physical elements, but they still cannot understand that above all these is the real spirit soul. See, now, this is actually, we are now referencing back to Sankhya Yoga, which Kapila Muni has spoken about. Now we are getting into a little more depth here. We are looking more into the nature of these specific elements themselves. So now here, Prajapati is explaining that the material elements cannot understand their own nature. But the living being, because of his spiritual nature, can know his body, the life airs, the senses, etc. Nevertheless, although the living being is completely aware of them, he is unable to see the Supreme Being who is omniscient and unlimited. I therefore offer my respectful obeisance unto him. So, even though the living entity is superior to dead matter, he still is subordinate. He still cannot understand the infinity of the Supreme Lord. So, the living being, even if advanced, cannot understand the Supreme Being, for he is Ananta in all six opulences. See, living entity is finite. We have seen in the 13th chapter of Gita also, nature and the enjoyer and the consciousness, where Krishna is explaining about the living entity, the Kshetra and Kshetragya. See, Kshetra is this body, the material elements surrounding this body, and Kshetragya is the Lord beyond it. So, Kshetra and Kshetragya. So, the living entity is limited Kshetragya. Krishna has explained in the Bhagavad Gita that he is the superior Kshetragya. He knows not only the Kshetra of one of his own self, but of all the other living beings. But the living entity only is aware of his own Kshetra. One living entity is not even aware of the behavior of the nature of other living entities. What to speak of the Supreme Being? So, due to his limited nature, the living entity has finite knowledge. Now, here again, you can see this is like an argument against Mayavad. Once again, this is another argument against Mayavad. The Mayavadi theory is that after liberation, the living entity is one with the absolute. But if the absolute is all-knowing, omniscient, then the living entity also must be omniscient. But Vedas here are saying that the living entity is not omniscient. He is limited in his knowledge. So therefore, the living entity cannot be considered the supreme. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here? Okay, so we continue. Text 26. Yado paramo manaso nama rupa.
Yetu Brahmo
Manaso Nama Rupa.
Rupasya drishta smriti sampramosha.
Rupasya
Drishta Smriti Sampramosha.
Ya iyate kevalaya swasamsthaya.
Ya
Yate Kevalaya Swasamsthaya.
Hamsaya tasmai shuchi sadmane namah.
Hamsaya Tasmai Shuchi Sadmane Namah.
Would you like to read? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Translation purport by Divine Grace Maya Prabhupada. Translation. When one's consciousness is completely purified of the contamination of material existence, gross and subtle, without being agitated as in the working and dreaming states, and when the mind is not dissolved, as in susupti, deep sleep, one comes to a platform of trance. Then one's material vision and the memories of the mind, which manifest names and forms, are vanquished. Only in such a trance is the Supreme Personality of Godhead revealed. Thus, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seen in that uncontaminated, transcendental state. Purport. There are two stages of God realization. One is called Sudnyayam, or very easily understood, generally by mental speculation. And the other is called Dudnyayam, understood only with difficulty. Paramatma realization and Brahman realization are considered Sudnyayam, but realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Dudnyayam. As described here, one attains the ultimate realization of the Personality of Godhead when one gives up the activities of the mind, thinking, feeling, and willing. Or in other words, when mental speculation stops. Transcendental realization is above Susupti, deep sleep. In our gross conditional stage, we perceive things through material experience and remembrance. And in the subtle stage, we perceive the world in dreams. The process of vision also involves remembrance and also exists in a subtle form. Above gross experience and dreams is Susupti, deep sleep. When one comes in to a complete spiritual platform, transcending deep sleep, he attains trance, Vishuddha Sattva or Vasudeva Sattva, in which the personality of Godhead is revealed. अतः श्री कृष्ण नामादि न भावेद grahyam indriyai. As long as one is situated in duality on the sensual platform, gross or subtle, realization of the original personality of Godhead is impossible. Sevon mukhe hi jivadav swayam eva spurthati adaha. But when one engages his senses in the service of the Lord, Specifically, one engages the tongue in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, tasting only Krishna Prasada with spirit of service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is revealed. This is indicated in this verse by the word Suchi Sadame. Suchi means purified. By the spirit of rendering service, when with one's senses, one's entire existence becomes Suchi Sadma, platform of uncontaminated purity. Daksha therefore offers his respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is revealed on the platform of Suchi Sadma. In this regard, Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura quotes the following prayer by Lord Brahma from the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.6. Tathapi Bhuman Mahima Gunasya Te Vibodhum Arhati Amalantar Atmabhi. One whose heart has become completely purified, my Lord, can understand the transcendental qualities of your Lordship and can understand the greatness of your activities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is, this is a slightly see, now this is, slightly complex subject matter. So please try to understand this. This is now we are going back to the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The living entity in the very beginning is actually a part of the Supreme. In Vishnu Purana, it is stated that in the beginning the Absolute was one, and he divided himself eternally into infinitesimal fragments for his own pleasure. So there is some kind of a hypothesis that the Lord divided himself into living entities. Mameva ansha jiva loke jiva bhut sanatana. So we are eternal parts and parcels of the Supreme, eternal separated parts. We are, we are the what you call, uh, we are vibhinnamsh. We are separated energies of the Lord. We are not swamsh. So Lord's incarnations like Ram, Varaha, Narsingh, they are swamsh, expansions of the Lord Himself. But we are vibhinnamsh. We are separated parts. So even though our characteristics resemble the Lord, our characteristics derive from the Lord, we are not connected with Him in the sense that our connection is separated. Now, in the beginning, when the separated living entity decides to enter into the material nature, he first goes into the stage known as Sushupti. Sushupti stage is when the living entity has separated himself from the Lord and he has gone into the deep sleep. The Sushupti is the state at the time when Brahman is being formed, when Mahat Tattva is being formed. The living entities are in Sushupti stage. Dreamless sleep. They have no consciousness. They're shut down. So this Sushupti state, after the Sushupti stage, once the Pradhan is created, the living entities enter into the material nature. And once Pradhan converts into matter, the Pancha Mahabhut and the mind, the senses, and the intelligence, then the living entity comes into consciousness. And there he becomes completely aware of his position in the material nature. I am a man, I am a woman, I am a demigod, I am a demon, I am a plant, I am an animal, whatever. So this is the dreaming state. So this is the dreaming state of the living entity. In this dreaming state also, he goes into sleep. And there he dreams subtle dreams. Now these are gross dreams. In that dream, in the sleep, he's in subtle dreams. So once he has transcended this stage of material consciousness, of being subordinate to the three modes of nature, he enters into Sushupti. This is almost, we can say, this is the objective of all the Mayavadis, to merge into Brahman, to become the absolute. So beyond this Sushupti is the Vishuddha Sattva state. It's like a Sushupti, we can say, is like a doorway. In the door, you are neither in the house nor outside the house. So just like that, when you are on the door sill, you are neither inside nor outside. So Sushupti stage is like that. You are neither spiritual nor material. You are in a sleeping state. But if you are able to transcend that Sushupti, you enter into the transcendence. Then you are Vibhuti Sattva, Vishuddha Sattva, or you are in Vasudeva Sattva. Then you can see the Lord face to face. That's the stage of pure consciousness. Then this material dream is over. So here Prajapati is explaining that when the consciousness is completely purified, even beyond Sushupti, That is the stage of trance. Then one can see the Supreme Lord eternally. Then one is not affected by the lower modes. So beyond the material nodes is Sushupti, and beyond Sushupti lies the stage of pure consciousness. However, Srila Prabhupada is explaining something different here. That Sevon Mukhi Jivvado Swayam Eva Suratyada. So by engaging one's senses in Krishna consciousness, one transcends this Sushupti stage. One need not pass through all the layers of material nature, but directly engaging one's senses in pure devotional service of the Lord, one can attain transcendental stage very much in this consciousness. And then this consciousness will flip over, just like it happened with Narad Muni. Narad Muni explains in the first canto, if you remember, that in a flash my present body was vanquished and I attained a spiritual form. So that is what happens to pure devotees. Their consciousness itself changes, which is akin to giving up this material body. Giving up material body means giving up material consciousness. The body is just a manifestation of consciousness. If consciousness changes completely, this very body becomes spiritual, like we see in the case of Dhruv Maharaj or even his mother. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here? Hare Krishna.
So, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that we are, so we have to act. I mean, there is not any moment that we cannot stop acting. And the actions come from the mind. So the mind tells us to keep doing something or the other. So here, in this verse, the purport is saying that we have to stop the mind itself. So then, the only way then he again says is 100% involve yourself in activities respect to Krishna. It's clear, Prabhu, but then how? Yeah, it's really like, I mean, morning Keshavanand Prabhu's lecture is like, you go from Chandigarh to Delhi, you know you're on the journey. Sometime you'll reach. So that we know that we are on this journey. We just have to be patient that sometime we'll reach. Because now it doesn't seem very realistic that 100% we can flip over. That's not practical also, given the state we are in at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So with
not to
reference to
get-
that particular... Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you would lose your, let's say, how do you get motivated to keep at the journey itself?
Okay, so you are asking me this question.
Because it's a long, I mean, you don't know how long it is. And like you just said, many lifetimes. So it's like...
And I get the question. So you see, Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada explains from a very practical perspective here. I mean, not just here, elsewhere also. So when we put those instructions, those words of Srila Prabhupada together, we get a very clear picture.
Sure.
So you see, Prabhu, with reference to Keshavan Prabhu's lecture actually, so we don't know how long the journey is. So if I'm driving from Delhi to Chandigarh and I stop somewhere in Haryana, I travel towards Rajasthan, then I go to UP, I may eventually reach Chandigarh, but I really don't know how long that journey will take. I don't know. I may decide to go to Gurgaon, then I may go to Jalandhar, then I may go to, say, Mukenia or some villages, and then eventually reach Chandigarh. So these are like distractions in the path of transcendence. So yeah, I agree that 100% transcendence is not possible at this stage, but that's the objective. Sevon mukhehi jivhadau. So this devotional service begins with the very tongue, chanting and tasting of prasadam. The objective of these activities is to develop a taste for bhakti. See, we don't have a taste for bhakti. So what we are doing right now is like a sputtering start. Prabhu, like you work for Bajaj Auto. If you remember that old Chetak.
Yes.
If you had that Kickstarter.
Yes.
So when the scooter became a little bit old also, the Kickstarter would not work very efficiently. Like 4, 5, 6 kicks because the carburetor would be old. The engine would cough and sputter for some time. You had to kick like 6, 7 times to start it. or those old motorcycles, CD 100 and all. You have to kickstart those. Now, that is exactly what we are doing in sadhana. We're kickstarting. So I may say that I have kicked my scooter 10 times, but if my kicks are not powerful enough, the carburetor will not develop enough suction
Mhm.
and the engine won't start. I may hear some sounds of pistons cranking and everything, but because there is no fuel supply, nothing is happening. So there must be intensity to that kick so that fuel suction starts and the engine comes alive. So bhakti is like this. So yes, Mataji, you're right. When the slate is completely wiped, that is correct. So we have to give up these misconceptions. See, we cannot give up our family life or environment just like that. I can't just open my door and walk out and say that I am an avdhut now. Though that should be an ideal, but that should be a state of consciousness, not a physical state. If I walk out of my house right now, I'll only think about my house. There'll be no memory of Krishna there. The objective is to fill our memory with so much of Krishna that this material memory diminishes.
Diminished.
So that is Sevan Mukhehi Jibhadav. So prasadam and chanting. Gradually we purify ourselves until we develop taste for bhakti. Then the process becomes automatic. So we are still in the anartha nivritti stage. So we should not attract more anarthas. Material world is a very attractive place. Devi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. It's a very difficult place. Duratyaya. It's Duratyaya because we find it very attractive. Everything in this world is so attractive. Gop Kumar was playing with Krishna. And when Krishna left, Gop Kumar was attracted to Vrindavan. And Krishna went back and he stayed here. So you see, we can get distracted even in the presence of the Lord. So we need to be very careful. Dvividha was dancing with the gopis. There was Lord Balram there. Lord Balram is Adi Guru. He's the spiritual principal himself. And still, in very much in his presence, Dvividha, the gorilla, was getting attracted to the gopis. And he was trying to charm them. So you see, and gopis, we say Ramya Kached Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargena. So we talk about gopis in the highest exalted terms, but still we see that Dvividha the gorilla was feeling attraction to them. Same was the case with Shankachuda. These demonic creatures, even in presence of the Supreme Lord, were attracted to his energies. And we are not talking of Durga or Maya or anything. We are talking of gopis themselves, the purest devotees of the Lord. So we can see that even in the presence of Maya, even in the presence of Krishna, one becomes attracted to material nature. So gopis, we cannot say gopis' bodies are material. They are transcendental. But the material consciousness is in our mind. So gopis also become mundane and material for us. So we have to rectify that consciousness. So that should be our effort. It doesn't matter whether we do it 24 hours a day or we do it 24 minutes a day. Our effort should be very solid. It didn't matter. Like even old scooters, I have seen some men would just start them with one kick. And there were people who wouldn't be able to start even with 10 kicks a new scooter. So the quality of our effort should be very high. It should be deep meditation, a deep prayer to get rid of these anarthas. So yes, so if you ask me a personal question, yes, personally speaking, I am also I am horrified by this world. To be honest, I am very much scared of this world. Not a good thing. For us transcendentalists, this is not a good thing at all. But this fear keeps me away from this world. I find it very scary. Anything in this world that appears to be beautiful and attractive will become a source of horror. So one has to be very, very careful. Anything in this world, the more attractive an object appears in this world, the more it will be a cause of horror and shock. Because Maya is not our friend. So now we are stuck in a situation. We should just make best deal of this bad bargain and try to get out of it. Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, they are our shelters.
Sure, Prabhu.
Does that answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes, I guess there will be, it's not a linear progression. It's like up, down, I used to say some days 24 minutes, some day maybe it's 2 minutes, some days 3 hours, but then we have to keep at it. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, we just have to keep at it. Yeah. So sorry, because I lost my connection actually. There was some internet problem on my end. So can you just repeat, Prabhu, what you said?
No. It's up and down, multiple. Some days is less, some days is more. It will not be linear. So we have to understand that, like everything in life, it will be up and down, and we have to keep at it.
Yes. Yeah. That's sadhana. That's sadhana. We keep struggling against the material nature.
Hmm.
Yes. Anyone else has any question or comment here? Oh, the next verse is very big, so maybe we can take one more question here. Next verse, we'll need to take half an hour.
2%.
Yeah, 2 verses, 27, 28. They're very long. The purport is 2.5 pages. Actually, three pages. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so just to continue on this topic only, then this is very important topic. See, Adav Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha. So Sadhu Sang, that's the most important point. Keshwan Prabhu was also emphasizing that you maintain Sadhu Sang. In this material condition, see, we have no other shelter. We have still not understood the holy name properly. We are very much afflicted by Maya. But sadhus are something who can save us. We need not associate with Narad Muni because he's very difficult to find. Or we cannot even associate with Srila Prabhupada directly. But we should try to take association of each other at least to discuss the subject matters of Bhagavatam. So just today only Keshav Prabhu was also saying that yes, both we have to do it in both the ways. We have to discuss sadhana bhakti, we have to discuss sadhana, and we have to discuss Krishna's pastimes. So we have to discuss about Krishna also. So in the sense that we have to focus on our dhya, on what we call our prayojan. Who are we thinking about? Krishna, Lord Chaitanya. We must understand their personalities also. So we must study a little bit about Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, or 10th canto of Krishna book. So try to understand the personality of Krishna also. So while we are doing sadhana, we are purifying ourselves of material attraction. We should also try to purify ourselves of material contamination. So, so practice this rigor in your bhakti. Now, please try to understand that none of us are children here. We are all grown up and aging very fast. Our time is running out. As devotees who have been in the movement for 5 years, 10 years, we must be more serious now in this process. We must at least theoretically understand this material world is not a place for enjoyment, it's a dangerous place. So we must now become very cautious and try to meditate on the Supreme Lord more and more. And adoshatha tata sadhu sangha atha bhajana kriya. So bhajan kriya that we should do. Then there will be anartha nivritti, then there will be nishtha. So we are still at some stage. So sadhu sang must be taken very seriously. Sadhu Sang, this kind of frivolous Sadhu Sang where we just meet up on a Saturday evening, chat up, and then hear some unrelated lecture, and then we sing some Bollywood tunes, eat something very opulent, very Rajasic, and go away. This is not going to help. The association should be such that we are thinking intensely. Our brain should be really exercised in this process. It should be very serious meditation. Then it's going to help. And you will feel it. I don't even need to say. When you meditate very hard, when you discuss very deeply, very profoundly, you will feel that change in your consciousness. Little by little, Small incremental changes will eventually lead you to complete purification. But please make that purification the objective of this lifetime at least. Otherwise, this material nature will repeat itself. The process of death, the process of old age and death, is truly horrifying. But then by that time, it's too late. As soon as you cross the age of 65, 70, and you truly start experiencing old age, it is very late to meditate on the Supreme Lord. It's not just a physical problem, it's also a mental conditioning. Your mind will also become more and more restless. Vata dosh rises. In the old age, Vata is rising. So random thoughts will start filling your head. You will not be able to meditate peacefully. That's why in the old age, people used to eventually go to live in Vrindavan, so that even in their disturbed state, they would hear Krishna's names. That's why widows would go to Vrindavan, old men would go to Vrindavan just to live there. Or, in Hindu traditions, men would even go to Kashi to live there just to hear the names of Lord Shiva to purify themselves. Even if I am not able to think, I'll hear it all the time. That's why people go to live in the holy places. Hare Krishna. Yes, so we stop here today. We continue next week with this 27, 28th verse. My request is please go back to these verses. These are very important ones. Try to find out where they are spoken in Bhagavad Gita also. Try to find analogies, and you will find some striking revelations. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Bhajipendra Pranam.
Pranam. Hare Krishna.